Yeah, let me tell you something that genuinely bothered me for years. Every time I used to see a rich person, and I mean actually rich, not just bought a new car rich, I used to wonder, what is this guy doing differently? Same country, same inflation, same market crashes. Then how? How is Ramesh uncle from the third floor retiring at 52 while my father worked till 62 and still worries about medical bills? I started digging, and what I found was not what I expected. These people are not just buying more mutual funds or doing bigger FDs. They are putting money into places that most of us don't even know exist. And the craziest part, many of these are completely legal, available in India right now in 2026. And some of them you can start with as little as 5,000 rupees. By the end of this video, I will show you 15 actual investments that rich people quietly make, ranked from interesting to genuinely mind-shifting. And I promise you, number one on this list will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about building wealth in India. Let's start. Number 15. Fractional real estate. Here's the thing. Everyone in India wants to own property. It's basically in our DNA. But the problem is that a decent property in a decent city starts at 50 lakh rupees minimum. Most people don't have that. So what do? They skip real estate completely and miss one of the most stable wealth building assets in history. But rich people found a workaround. Fractional real estate platforms like Strata and PropShare let you own a small piece of a large commercial property like an office building or a warehouse with as little as 10 to 25 lakh rupees pooled together with other investors. You get rental income every month, you get price appreciation when the property value goes up, and you didn't have to buy the whole building. Now yes, 10 lakh rupees is still a lot of money, but think about it this way. Instead of putting 10 lakh rupees in an FD at 7%, a commercial property can give you 8 to 10% rental yield plus potential appreciation on top. It's not magic, but it's a better math. Number 14. P2P lending platforms. Okay, you know how your bank gives you 3.5% interest on a savings account, then turns around and gives someone else a personal loan at 18%. The bank keeps the 14.5% difference. P2P lending cuts out the bank. Platforms like Lendbox let you be the bank. You lend directly to borrowers and earn interest that can be anywhere from 10 to 18%. These platforms spread your money across many borrowers, so one default doesn't wipe you out. Now, and this is important, I have to be straight with you here, RBI tightened P2P regulations in August 2023. They banned credit guarantees that some platforms were offering, and they capped the maximum total amount a single lender can put across all P2P platforms combined at 50 lakh rupees. So this is not a free-for-all. You have to go in with eyes open. Is there risk? Yes, absolutely. Some people don't repay. But rich investors treat this as one small slice of their overall pie, not the whole meal. They put maybe 5% of their portfolio here for higher returns. Worth knowing about, worth reading about before you touch it. Number 13. SGBs, Sovereign Gold Bonds. Now I know what you're thinking. Rohan, gold? My mother does that. Hear me out. Your mother buying physical gold and SGBs are completely different things. SGBs are backed by the government of India. You buy them at the current gold price, then every year the government pays you 2.5% interest on top of whatever gold does. And if you hold them for 8 years, the capital gains, meaning the profit when gold price goes up, is completely tax-free. One important thing to know in 2026, the government paused issuing fresh SGBs from the 2024 to 25 financial year onwards, so you cannot buy them directly from the RBI right now. But here's the thing, they're still available on the stock exchange. You can buy existing SGBs on NSE and BSE through your regular Zerodha or Grow account, just like buying a share. The price may be slightly different from the gold rate depending on demand, but the tax benefit and the 2.5% annual interest remain intact. No locker charges, no fear of theft, and you get paid to hold gold. Rich families quietly stack these on the secondary market even today. Number 12. Invoice discounting. This one sounds complicated, but it's simple once you see it. Imagine Priya runs a small manufacturing business. She sold goods worth 10 lakh rupees to a big company. The big company will pay in 90 days. This is very common in business-to-business transactions. But Priya needs cash now for her operations. What does she do? She sells that invoice, that 90-day payment promise, to investors at a small discount. She gets 9.7 lakh rupees today instead of waiting for the full 10 lakh rupees later. The investor who bought that invoice gets 10 lakh rupees after 90 days. That's a profit of 30,000 rupees on 9.7 lakh rupees in 90 days, which works out to roughly 12 to 13% annualized return. Platforms like GripInvest and TradeGrid let regular investors access these deals. Rich investors use this for short-term parking of money, somewhere between a liquid fund and a higher yield instrument. Number 11. REITs, Real Estate Investment Trusts. Embassy REIT, Mindspace REIT, Brookfield REIT, these are listed on stock exchanges just like shares. Here's the simple way to understand REITs. A REIT owns a bunch of big commercial properties, offices, malls, warehouses. It collects rent, then it distributes most of that rent to investors every quarter. You own a piece of the rent-generating machine without owning any actual property. In 2026, REIT distributions are running somewhere around 6 to 8% annual yield based on recent actuals, plus stock price movements on top. And you can buy REITs on Zerodha or Grow starting from just a few hundred rupees per unit. Rich people have been doing this for years. Normal people are just discovering it. Number 10. InvITs, Infrastructure Investment Trusts. Same concept as REITs, but for infrastructure. Highways, power lines, pipelines. India Infrastructure InvIT, Power Grid InvIT, these collect toll money or transmission charges and pay it out to investors. Now this is interesting because India is building infrastructure aggressively. In the 2024-25 Union Budget, the government's capital expenditure for infrastructure was 11.11 lakh crore rupees. The money flowing through these projects is real. InvIT investors are quietly collecting a cut of that flow. Steady income, not glamorous, but exactly the kind of boring but brilliant thing rich people put their money into.
Number 9. Unlisted shares. Before a company goes public on the stock market, the shares are called unlisted shares. You can still buy and sell them, just not through a stock exchange. There are brokers and platforms like Unlisted Cart and Shares Cart that facilitate this. Think about it. If you had bought Zomato shares before its IPO or Nykaa before it listed in 2021, the returns would have been extraordinary. Now, obviously, not every company goes big. Many don't. The risk is higher, which is why this is only for money you can genuinely afford to lock up for 2 to 5 years without needing it back. But high net worth families in India routinely park a small percentage of their wealth in pre-IPO companies they believe in. It's one of their highest risk, highest reward slots. Number 8. Leasing investments. This one blew my mind when I first heard about it. You know how airlines, hospitals, telecom companies, they all need very expensive equipment? Aircraft engines, MRI machines, telecom towers. Instead of buying this equipment, they lease it. Someone has to own that equipment and lease it out. That someone can be you. Platforms like GripInvest have leasing products where you own a piece of expensive equipment that is leased to a big company. You collect monthly lease payments like rent but for machinery. Returns can be in the range of 10 to 14% annually. The contract is with a real company. The equipment is real. It's a very different mental model from stocks, but it works. Number 7. AIF, Alternative Investment Funds. Now we are getting into serious rich people territory. AIF is an umbrella term for investment vehicles that are more sophisticated than mutual funds. Think private equity funds, hedge funds, real estate funds. SEBI mandates a minimum investment of rupees 1 crore per investor for most AIFs. So this isn't for everyone watching this today. But understanding that this exists matters. Because rich families don't just have mutual funds, they have a diversified structure where maybe 70% is standard stuff and 30% is in AIF, unlisted equity, direct real estate and other things we're discussing here. The goal is not to blindly copy them. The goal is to understand the architecture. What percentage goes where? That thinking is what builds generational wealth. Number 6. Angel investing. Someone in your city right now is starting a business that might be worth 500 crore rupees in 10 years. Angel investors give them early money, typically anywhere from 5 lakhs to 50 lakh rupees for a small ownership stake. If the company grows massively, that stake is worth crores. If the company fails, the money is gone. It's high risk, most startups fail, but a single successful bet can outperform everything else in your portfolio combined. In India, platforms like Let's Venture and Angel List India allow accredited investors to do this with smaller ticket sizes. This is not for your emergency fund money, but for risk capital, rich people love this slot. Number 5. International Index ETFs. Okay, here's a question. How much of your wealth is India only? For most Indians, the answer is 100%, which means if India goes through a bad decade, bad government decisions, external shocks, currency depreciation, your entire financial life suffers. Rich families globally do something called geographical diversification. They spread wealth across multiple countries. In India, you can do this through international ETFs, like the Motilal Oswal Nasdaq 100 ETF or the ICICI Pru US Blue Chip Fund, which give you exposure to American companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Google. Or you can directly invest in US markets through platforms like IND Money or Vested. Now, two things to know if you go the direct route. First, under the liberalized remittance scheme, the RBI's LRS, you can send up to 250,000 US dollars per year abroad for investments. And second, if your remittance exceeds 7 lakh rupees in a financial year, the government collects 20% TCS, tax collected at source upfront. Don't panic, you can claim that TCS back when you file your income tax return. But you need to know it is coming so your cash flow isn't a shock. In 2026, the US dollar remains strong. Owning some dollar-denominated assets protects you from rupee depreciation over time. Your grandparents kept gold for this reason. You can keep international equity. Number 4. Corporate bonds through direct platforms. Look, FDs are safe. Nobody's saying FDs are bad, but at 7% after tax, depending on your bracket, you're actually earning maybe 5% real return. Inflation eats the rest. Corporate bonds from high-rated companies can give you 9 to 12% on similar lock-in periods. Platforms like Vint Wealth and Bonds India now allow retail investors to buy these directly. No broker, no middleman. You're essentially lending money directly to a reputed company and earning the interest that the bank would have taken. Is there more risk than an FD? Yes, slightly, but in AAA-rated company defaulting is very rare. Wealthy investors use this constantly for their safe allocation because the numbers simply make more sense.
Number 3. Farmland investment. This one surprised me too. India has a huge amount of agricultural land. Wealthy families, especially old money, quietly own farmland in states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Madhya Pradesh. Not just for agriculture, for long-term land value appreciation. Now, direct farmland purchase has legal complexities. Many states have rules about who can buy agricultural land. But new platforms are creating organized farmland investment models where investors pool money, professional farm managers run operations, and profits from produce plus land appreciation are shared among investors. In a country where food demand is only going up and good farmland is finite, the long-term math is interesting. If you explore this route, make sure to verify land titles carefully and consult a local property lawyer before putting money in. This space is newer and needs your due diligence. Number 2. Building a business or buying a small one. I know, this sounds obvious, but wait. Most people when they think start a business, imagine a startup, an app, taking big risks, quitting jobs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about small, boring, cash flow businesses. A franchise of a well-known chai or tiffin service, a small tutoring center, a laundry service, a small fleet of delivery vehicles contracted to Amazon or Flipkart. These are not glamorous, but they generate monthly cash flow that you fully control. And here's what rich people quietly do. They buy existing small businesses. A small printer shop that is already generating 80,000 rupees a month in net profit. A medical equipment rental company. These can be bought for 2 to 3 times annual profit. So a business making 80,000 rupees net profit per month, that's 9.6 lakh rupees per year, could be bought for somewhere between 19 to 29 lakh rupees. And it starts paying you from day one. This is called acquisition entrepreneurship. It is massive in developed countries. It is just beginning in India. The returns can be extraordinary because you are not building from scratch. You are buying something that already works. Number 1. Investing in yourself, specifically in income-generating skills. Before you think I'm about to give you a motivational speech, stay with me because I want to show you the actual numbers. In 2026, the gap between an average software developer and a specialized AI engineer in India is roughly 8 to 12 lakh rupees per year in salary. That is not a small number. That's more than most mutual fund investments will return in absolute rupees for someone with a 5 lakh rupees portfolio. Think about it this way. If learning a specific skill, AI, data analytics, financial modeling, copywriting, a specialized trade, increases your income by 50,000 rupees a month, that is 6 lakh rupees per year in additional income. If you invest 1 lakh rupees in a course or skill program that produces 6 lakh more rupees every year going forward, that's a 600% return on your investment. No stock does that, no FD does that, no real estate does that in year 1. Rich people understand this deeply. Successful founders I've studied put 5 to 10% of their annual income back into upgrading their own knowledge and skills, not as charity to themselves, but as an investment with the highest return they know. The biggest mistake middle-class Indians make is spending all their learning budget on their children and zero on themselves. Your earning power is your most valuable asset in your 20s and 30s. A sharpened skill compounds like nothing else. Alright, let me give you the real takeaway here. The difference between a wealthy person's portfolio and yours is not just the amounts, it's the variety of buckets. A wealthy person might have traditional mutual funds in one bucket, SGBs from the secondary market in another, a small business generating cash flow, some unlisted equity, international exposure, and every year they're upgrading the skills that protect and grow their income. You don't need all 15 things at once. That's not the point. The point is to slowly, over the next 5 years, move from having 1 or 2 buckets to having 4 or 5. Each bucket protects you when another one is struggling. The one action I want you to take today, just one, is to pick one thing from this list that you've never heard of before and spend 30 minutes reading about it this week. Not investing yet, just reading. Education is the first investment. Everything else follows. Oh, and one more question for the comments. Which of these 15 was the most surprising to you? Which one made you go, wait, this is actually a thing? Tell me below. I read every single comment on this channel. If this video helped you think differently about where money can actually go, you'll love this one I made recently. How much the top 10% of Indians actually have. The numbers will shock you, and more importantly, they'll give you a very clear benchmark to aim for. It's right here. See you there.